I'm Amy Elliott. I'm a therapist and I'm also part of the sermon writing team at Midweek. And we're so glad you joined for this midweek moment where we're going to get to dive a little bit deeper into the sermon message of the weekend. And so last weekend, we were in the book of James and we were talking about the power of words, really how powerful our tongues can be. And James, who is the brother of Jesus, makes some great analogies. In verse 4, he says, it's like a ship. And although they're so large and driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. That's how powerful the tongue is. All the words that come out of our mouth, we steer these large ships. And he goes on to say in verse 6, consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Now, unfortunately, in California, we know this all too well. We have seen the devastation caused by a little spark that then creates a huge wildfire, and there's mass destruction and evacuations, all from that little stimulus, all from that little spark. And so James paints this vivid picture, and then he goes on to give the kicker. In verse 8, he says, but no human can tame the tongue. It is this powerful, and yet no human can tame the tongue. Although we'd like to argue it, we know that's true. How many times have you driven home from work and you've thought, okay, I'm going to go into my house and I'm going to be so kind to my kids. And you walk through the front door and the first thing you notice are all the dirty dishes or all the clothes on the floor. And that's what comes out of your mouth. Or you have promised yourself, I am not going to engage in gossip tomorrow at work. And then lunch hour rolls around and everyone's sitting around and everyone starts talking. And before you know it, you're gossiping with them. Or how about, I am in a perfectly pleasant mood. I'm going to get in the car and drive where I need to go. And before you know it, that idiot who has no idea how to drive has done something to you and the rage just comes up, right? And the words just come out. And so what James is saying is, there is no swear jar. There is no self-help book. There is nothing man can do on his own to tame the tongue. So what do we do with that? What do we do with, as James says in verse 10, out of the same mouth comes praise and cursing? What do we do when we know that that is our truth? The first thing is we can't be complacent about it. We can't pretend it's okay to have worship and gossip exit our mouths. We can't say it's okay to have praises and criticism at the same time. We instead have to bring it to God over and over again. That's our first step, bringing it to God. We started the sermon last week by saying our words have a wide and long-lasting effect. What we say becomes the tape that people play in their minds. What we say becomes the tape they play. So for many of us, this tape was written in childhood. And either someone said to you explicitly or it was an implicit way that they acted. And they conveyed this message to you that you're not good enough. And you've been playing that tape ever since. Or maybe they conveyed you're too much. And that one rolls still till today. Now, the beauty is that this works, this power of the tongue, power of words, works both positively and negatively. And so if you were blessed enough to have someone say, you're smart, you're kind, you're a problem solver, you're hardworking, my guess is that you are actually all of those things and you work to cultivate those things. When you know you're a good problem solver, you work longer and harder on problems. When you know you're kind, you look for a way to express that kindness. And so what happens is those messages are spoken, we embody them, and then we perpetuate them. And so we carry on these powerful words, whether they are positive or negative. And so if we have such a power at our hands, we gave you 3 questions last weekend. We said, ask yourself 3 things before you say these powerful words out loud. Ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? Yeah, it's true. He's an idiot. Okay. But is it kind? If it's not kind, don't say it. If the answer to any of those questions is a no, you don't do it. You don't say it. Here's a tricky one. You have a spouse, 2 spouses, right? And usually when people are married long enough, you have heard all of their stories, or you were there for the original event. And so one spouse starts telling the story, and the other one is like, oh, no, that is not how it happened. And so they chime in and correct the story, right? They feel the need to say, no, 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 that's not it, right? And so you say, well, is it true? Yeah, those are the facts. Is it kind? It's neutral, like it's neither here nor there. But is it necessary? Are you called to be the fact police for your spouse? And the answer is no. Unless your spouse is giving detailed instructions on how to disarm a bomb, you probably do not need to chime in and give your 2 cents on what actually happened. Why? Because what you're conveying there is just stop being so stupid. You don't know what you're talking about, right? You're minimizing them. You're sending this message of, you're not doing this right. And whether or not you mean to, your words make them feel about this big. And so we have to be careful. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's kind, but is it necessary? Because Paul tells us in the book of Ephesians that our goal should be speaking the truth in love. That's our goal. With our words, we should be speaking the truth in love. So a filter that I like to use is if that person was in the corner of the room where I'm speaking, would I still be saying whatever it is I'm saying? Would they be embarrassed by what I'm saying? Would they be hurt by it? Because I might be sharing something about them that they don't want other people to know. And even though it's true and all those things, I am not being kind to them by saying it. And so I check myself that way, because I know that when I feel the need to share too much, to say too much, to criticize, to do all those things, I'm actually revealing more about myself than I am about the person I'm talking to or the person I'm talking about. If I am saying something about someone, if I'm putting them down, I'm just letting you know I feel insecure. I feel threatened by them. If I'm being mean, I'm probably telling you, you hurt me so bad, I want to get back at you. I want to hurt you too. Or maybe I'm just revealing that I am judgmental. And so my words are so powerful, not only for them, but for me too. Out of the overflow of the heart speaks the mouth. That's the truth the Bible tells us. And so if in my heart I have all those things, it's coming out of my mouth. And so I want to be really careful to guard what comes out of my mouth, because I understand what Paul is saying, or I'm sorry, what James is saying. I understand the power of my tongue, the power of my words, that I can spark a whole forest fire by what comes out of my mouth. And so I want to challenge you this week. I want you to think of one person in your life. It can be anyone. It can be your spouse. It can be your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your teacher, your child, your parent, your coworker. I kind of want it to be someone that you know pretty well, because I want you to think of what you know about them and the negative words that have probably been spoken to them over time. So maybe you know them well enough to know the tape that plays in their head. And I want you to think about what words would speak counter to that negative message. Whatever blessing you have for them, that just really this truth that comes out that speaks against the negative tape they play. And I want you to say those things to them all week long. I want you to have such blessing come out of your mouth that they feel it, they inhabit it, and then they start to perpetuate it. Our tongue is either a weapon or a great source of blessing. And so this week, let us heed the words of James and let us walk forth in peace and in love and just speak words of kindness and truth.